we go, good start. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Cabinet on Friday the 15th of November. I'm your chairman and leader of the council, Mark Stevenson, conducting this meeting today. Okay, I'm going to jump straight into it. Can I have the apologies for absence, please?
Thank you, Leader. I can report apologies for absence this morning from Councillor Andy Baker, the Housing and Planning Portfolio Holder, and also from Councillor Mick Barry, the Leisure and Public Realm Portfolio Holder. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much. Item number 2, minutes of the last meeting. I'm happy to move the minutes as a correct record. Is there anybody?
I'll second that, Leader.
Anybody disagree with that? Can I have an agreement then, please? Thank you very much. I'll sign them in a second. Item number 3 is declarations of interest. Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I'd like to declare an interest on item number 9, the statement of licensing policy. I'd like to disclose my pecuniary interest as I hold a gaming licence for North Essex Liberal Democrats in Tendring. And the other item is item 18, Careline consultation, results consultation. I declare other registry interest as chairman of the Autumn Centre. Many of my clients at the Autumn Centre are also Careline, so on both items I will leave the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to declare an interest in item 18 under Careline, as my mum is a customer, so I will also be leaving the meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Chapman. Councillor Honeywood.
Yes, I have 2 declarations of interest then. The first is that I hold the gaming licence for Clacton Constituency Conservative Association. And secondly, I have a member of my family that uses Careline. Now, others have said they have to leave. I have a particular question around item 18 and particularly Ustride. So do I have to leave, or am I able to ask that question?
I shall ask the monitoring officer, Lisa Hastings.
I think in the circumstances, Councillor Honeywood, it would be acceptable to be able to ask the question. In addition, upon reflection, I think with regard, you're not decision makers, and as long as your questions, including Councillor Chapman actually, as long as your questions do not relate to the personal circumstances of your family, then I think both of you can stay as well.
Thank you.
Any more declarations of interest? Okay, I'll move us on. Announcements by the leader of the council. I've only got one. On Wednesday, I had the privilege to go down and look at our new buildings in Manningtree, the Honeycroft. It was quite inspiring. I think this was something the previous administration started, and we were very grateful for all the work that they put in, and we managed to get it over the line for them. We've got solar panels, air source heating pumps, underfloor heating. This is all for our independent community, and I think it took 11 months to build, and it's a testament to our developers and to our staff in the turnaround it was in bringing this to fruition. A couple of our people that were asked to leave when we had to demolish the building have been put back in that building as per our agreement with them. And I look forward to seeing more of the community space there, because there's a community room being used. Overall, it was a really, really good experience, and I think it's something that the council can be extremely proud of. So that's my only announcement. Mr. Davidson.
Just to add to that, Leader, and also it came in excess of £200,000 under budget.
Yes, it did. Thank you very much. Announcements by Cabinet members. And I think I am going to go with Councillor Henderson first.
Thank you, Leader. I had the pleasure to attend the Institute of Economic Development's annual conference and awards on the 6th of November in London with the Deputy Chief Executive Lee Healy and our Economic Growth and Enterprise Manager Barbara Pohl. The IED is the UK's leading independent professional body representing economic development and regeneration practitioners working for local and regional communities. During the day, there were a number of inspirational and informative talks, which included some real insight into what other authorities and organisations feel about the future of economic development and how we can tackle some of the challenges we are already facing and those that could be coming our way over the next few years. At the award dinner, we were announced winners of the Social Value Champion of the Year for the Sunspot Jaywick Sands. The IED said the judges highlighted the positive impact of this impressive project on the local community, and it noted the effectively met the community needs, resulting in improved perceptions, high occupancy rates, and I can tell you now that every unit is now occupied, which is really good news, and business expansions. The initiative is recognised for addressing deprivation through collaboration, fostering hope and aspiration, and the submission demonstrated a pragmatic approach to overcoming local challenges, showcasing strong leadership. It has generated significant economic, social and environmental benefits, emphasising the close-knit community in that area. And I just want to say, as I said, I was attended alongside officers, but I want to actually point out one particular officer that needs mentioning for the commitment and energy that she has put into that project, and that is Barbara Pohl, the officer. I know how much this means to her. I was actually there seeing how pleased and proud she was of receiving the award. So I think we should show a special thanks to Barbara Pohl for the magnificent work she's done with the Sunspot. And here is the award so everyone can see it. So I think we should give her a round of applause for all the work that she's done.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Councillor Bray.
Thanks, Leader. Just a congratulations to everybody involved in that. Obviously, it was attached to my portfolio some time ago, and of course, Councillor Honeywood's as well. And we watched it sort of grow. I was there last week, and everything Councillor Henderson said is correct. It's fully occupied. There are people down there. There's a lot of activity. It's a brilliant job, well done by all concerned. So I'm not going to make it long-winded, but well done, everybody. What a brilliant result. Superb.
Thanks. Thank you, Councillor Bray. I think my next portfolio holder is Councillor Placey.
Thank you, Leader. I have a statement about the crime and disorder reduction strategy. At its meeting of the 21st of October this year, actually, last month, Cabinet formally received and noted the Monitoring Officer's report issued under Section 5A of the Local Government and Housing Act 1989 in respect of the position in relation to Council's historic omission regarding the formulation and implementation of a crime and disorder strategy for the Council, as required under Sections 5 and 6 of the Crime and Disorder Act. I am providing an update as per Recommendation C of that report, namely the proposed actions and timescales to resolve the historical omission to approve the Crime and Disorder Reduction Strategy 1998 at full Council. The timescale to address the above issue is as follows. This month, we are carrying out a strategic assessment and producing a draft assessment document. Next month, we are producing a draft crime and disorder reduction strategy. In January, a draft report and strategy will go to management team. In February, the final crime and disorder reduction report and strategy will go to Cabinet, and in March, it will go to full Council. I would like to reassure members that the crime and disorder reduction strategy will in future go to full Council for approval. I would also like to assure members that the failure to do so previously has not prevented the work we carry out with our partners from being progressed. In addition to the statutory partners of Tendring District Council, Essex Police, Essex Fire and Rescue Service, the Probation Service and North East Essex Integrated Care Board, the Community Safety Partnership also includes Community Voluntary Services Tendering and Citizens Advice Tendering, together with a number of other agencies. This partnership has delivered a number of projects, and if you bear with me, I will give you some examples. Centre for Action on Rape and Abuse, otherwise known as CARA, is a support service for victims and survivors of sexual violence and child sexual abuse. In 2023, 365 referrals from Tendring residents were received, which included 58 young people aged 13 to 17 and 20 under the age of 12. CARA's services to clients includes an independent sexual violence advisor who supports them through the criminal justice system and provides advocacy and emotional support. Our community partnership funding, in line with Safer Essex, supported 200 therapy sessions. Then with the police, Operation Esplanade is a joint operation with police and council officers undertaking patrols in the peak summer holiday period with the aim of tackling antisocial behaviour and street drinking in Clacton Town Centre. In 2023, the operation was then called Operation Gingerbread. Essex Police and Tendring Council completed 250 hours of dedicated foot patrol in Clacton Town Centre, and during this time, the PSPO powers were used over 40 times, along with several arrests. 25 incidents of disorderly behaviour were attended to, and 10 intelligence reports were made in relation to drugs. This year, Operation Esplanade, there have been over 200 hours of dedicated foot patrol in Clacton Town Centre at peak times every Friday, Saturday and Sunday. Powers under the PSPO have been used over 44 times during this period. This involved dispersing street drinkers, removing alcohol and dealing with low-level ASB incidents. 10 arrests were made in relation to public disorder and shoplifting. 20 police intelligence reports were submitted. 12 stop searches were undertaken. During these periods over the last 2 years, there has been a 65% reduction of ASB incidents reported in Clacton Town Centre. And finally, Ask for Angela. This initiative aims to support individuals in nighttime economy venues who feel they are being harassed, followed or receiving unwanted attention by providing a safe phrase to use that informs the venue that they would like help or support. This is achieved by providing training to nighttime economy venues to ensure they understand what appropriate assistance is when someone feels like they are being harassed and they ask for Angela. Training has been provided to all pubs and clubs in Clacton on how to respond appropriately if someone asks for Angela. The venue staff will then be able to assist the individual and take them out of the situation and help them leave the establishment safely. I look forward to bringing our crime and disorder reduction strategy to full council next year. Thank you. Then I've got something a little bit lighter. I attended the celebration event for the Junior Ambassador Project on Tuesday, and I would like to, again, this has been going for a number of years now, I think, and the results are being seen. It's about, if you don't know, teaching our primary school children the diversity we have in our culture, and they're learning about other people's ways of life, I guess is the best way to put it. This one, we had Chinese poetry from Wharton Primary, songs from The Lion King from Chase Lane Primary. We had carols and national anthem and poems from Wicks and Ravenous Primary. We had Bollywood dance from Kirby Primary and Tendring Primary. And their faces when they joined in with the African drumming song, it was just beautiful. And it finished with Wicks and Ravenous up on the stage singing Imagine. I can't recommend it enough. It was really, really, truly uplifting, and the theatre was absolutely full. So those young people had full support from their families. It was amazing. And in case you haven't noticed, I guess you all know that today is Children in Need Day, so I've convinced my colleagues to wear a Pudsey badge. That's it from me, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Placey. I think convincing wasn't that hard. So, Councillor Honeywood.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, the crime disorder reduction strategy. Can I ask, is there a deadline, or was there a deadline when we should have had this in place?
I think we'll pass that one to the officers.
The legislation was passed or came into effect in 1998. And they established the partnerships for crime and disorder, and the local authority, as one of the responsible authorities, was required to adopt a strategy relating to crime and disorder. I made inquiries as to whether we had a strategy or not on the basis of some information that I became aware of, and I have been informed that any decision relating to a crime and disorder strategy cannot be located. So it is a very historical situation for Tendring.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you both. I think that brings to an end the announcements from Cabinet. So I'm going to go on to item number 6, which is matters referred to the Cabinet by the Council, and there are none. Takes us to number 7, and this is matters referred to Cabinet by a committee reference from the Resources and Service Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Portfolio holders review of performance and management of projects under their respective portfolios. So normally Councillor Baker would have responded to this because he was the main response from Cabinet, but as he's not here, I'm just going to go with his comments that are on page 25 of the report agenda. I don't intend to read them out because they're a bit lengthy, but I'm also going to move the recommendations. It's also on page 25. But before I do, can I just thank the committee for their work? As a former chairman of the Resource and Overview and Scrutiny, I know how hard it can be sometimes to get these things in front of Cabinet. So I appreciate all the work that they did, and if you could pass that back to your committee, that'd be excellent. Thank you, Councillor Honeywood. I do need a seconder though before I can move this.
I'll second that, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. And we'll go to comments. Councillor Honeywood.
Thank you, Chairman. I notice under this item that the comments have been provided by the Housing and Planning portfolio holder. That's on page 25. As chairman of the Scrutiny Committee, one of the things we asked about, and it's on page 24, and I'm happy to read that piece out, bullet point A, bottom of page 24, portfolio holders must ensure that their respective reviews with their corporate directors of the performance and project management of existing projects within their respective portfolios must be completed in good time, so that their findings, together with such additional actions as the leader wishes to undertake in response, can be reported to the Resources and Services Overview and Scrutiny Committee at its meeting due to be held on the 17th of December 2024. As I said, it's a response from the housing portfolio holder, but there doesn't seem to be anything from either yourself or the other portfolio holders.
I think it only really required one from the housing on, part B of your recommendation. It notes that the leader of the council will be invited to attend that meeting of the committee to discuss the outcomes of those reviews, which I've written down. I'm more than happy to do. Thank you for the birthday present, because that is my birthday, the 17th of December. And I'm happy to discuss the recommendations as per your request at that point with the committee.
Thank you very much for that. I shall look forward to spending your birthday with you.
I do expect a present, a birthday present. So it's been moved, seconded. There are no other comments. Happy to agree? Thank you very much. Agenda item number 8 is the matter referred to Cabinet by committee. This once again is the Resource and Service Overview Scrutiny Committee. Fly tipping and mobile CCTV enforcement. And an irony is that the person asking most of the questions is now the person answering them. So, Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Leader. I note the recommendations of the committee and thank them for the work they've carried out. I'll be working with the services involved to explore the resource implications of adopting some of these measures. I've set in place a number of practices with the help of officers, and with the agreement of the Chief Executive, these include an all-members briefing on waste and strategy, which we hope to arrange early in 2025, and improved communication between Tendring Council and volunteer litter picking groups, which I hope to implement soon after the all-members briefing.
And do you have a seconder? Councillor Placey.
I'm happy to second this, and my comments are as in the report, which I'm happy to read. That I also note the recommendations and thank the committee. I have raised the recommendations within the report with the relevant service. I am happy to explore the option to use AI functionality where appropriate. I have asked the services to assess the impact of using AI on our existing policies and delivery of service.
Thank you, Councillor. It's been moved and seconded. Any comments? Councillor Honeywood.
Yes. Firstly, so many of the points raised at the scrutiny committee were raised by Councillor Smith, and he did have a lot of enthusiasm for those points, and I'm sure he'll be using that enthusiasm to bring forward his suggestions and that. So we look forward to seeing those. My only concern is obviously around CCTV, because we're in such a mess with the CCTV we're trying to introduce, and we're now trying to tie that in. That's my only criticism, but I think his enthusiasm will be an asset to you.
And I totally agree with you. His enthusiasm has endless bounds, as we found out. It's been moved and seconded. Can I have an agreement on that, please? Agreed. Thank you. Right, item number 9, Councillor Scott. I believe you're going to vacate the room while we discuss this.
Thank you.
You're going to go and make us all tea, yeah? Okay. Agenda item number 9 is the matter of...
Excuse me, Chairman, for the gaming, do I need to leave? Okay.
You're going to help him make the tea. Okay, agenda item number 9, matters referred to the Cabinet by committee, reference from the Licensing and Registration Committee, renewal of the Statement of Licensing Policy, the Gambling Act 2005. Now, normally this would be moved by the portfolio holder, Councillor Baker, but unfortunately he's not here today, so it falls to me. So I'm just going to read out his comments that he gave to the Licensing Committee, where he says, I thank the Licensing and Registration Committee for its oversight of the development of this revised policy statement on behalf of the Council. It is important that we operate the Council's gambling licence functions in a way that promotes the Gambling Act 2005's objectives of preventing gambling from being a source of crime or disorder, being associated with crime or disorder, or being used to support crime, ensuring that gambling is conducted in a fair and open way, and protecting children and other vulnerable people from being harmed or exploited by gambling. And I'm pleased to support the adaptation of this revised policy statement and urge Cabinet to recommend this to full Council. So that was his comments. The recommendations are on page 28. Page 41. I do need a seconder though.
Seconded, Leader.
Thank you very much. Do we have any comments? Okay, it's been moved, it's been seconded. Can I have an agreement, please? Agreed. Thank you very much. Could somebody get the other two, please, for us? It might be worth you thanking the committee for all the work they've done. I will do once I've done all 4 of them.
Mind you, that is my wife, so I better be careful. I'll do it.
Okay. Okay, all back in the room. Item number 10. And this is a matter referred to Cabinet by committee. Once again, reference from Licensing and Registration Committee, the adoption of a revised licensing enforcement and inspection policy. So once again, Councillor Baker would have said, I welcome the submission of this revised policy. It supports the commitment we gave in the Corporate Plan 24 to 28 to support pride in our area and services to residents. Regulatory systems only work properly when enforcement powers are used proportionally and responsibly to protect the public and consumers. This policy sets out the approach to be taken in licensing to achieve this. It builds on the programme of routine inspections agreed by the Licensing and Registration Committee, through which we have taken a proactive approach to checking compliance. I formally invite Cabinet to approve the policy. So that has been moved by for myself. I need a seconder.
I'm happy to second.
And do we have any comments on that? Okay, but it's been moved and seconded. Can I have an agreement, please? Thank you very much. Item number 11. There seems to be a theme going on here. Matters referred to the Cabinet by committee, reference from Licensing and Registration Committee yet again. This is the adoption of a sex establishment policy. So in this matter, Councillor Baker said, it is right and proper that the district councils can represent the communities we serve and apply appropriate controls on the location and operation of any sex shops, sex cinemas and sexual entertainment venues. In Tendring, we have a single established sex shop. However, through this renewed policy, we would be prepared if others wanted to open such shops, cinemas or venues elsewhere in the district. This means we can carefully consider the impact proposals may have on the locality and the protection for those potentially working at those businesses. On the basis of being prepared for any such applications, I urge Cabinet to approve the policy as submitted. The recommendations on this one are on page 91. I do, however, need a seconder.
I'm happy, as a member of the Licensing Committee, I'm aware of the hard work and dedication from our officers that brings this to us for approval. I'm very pleased to second this.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any comments? Can I have an agreement, please? Okay. And that takes us on to item 12. And this is matters referred to the Cabinet by a committee. Reference from the Licensing and Registration Committee again. Adoption of a pavement licensing policy. Councillor Baker said, as with all of the policies submitted for approval at Cabinet today, I wish to congratulate the Licensing and Registration Committee for ensuring the policies of the Council in this service area are kept under review and refreshed as a consequence. In this case, we have had temporary measures introduced as part of the post-COVID-19 Build Back response, and those measures have now been made permanent. With the obvious need to allow clear access routes for the public to use, this pavement licensing regime allows cafes, restaurants and bars to secure a licence to place furniture on the highway. The policy now submitted sets out the Council's approach to the administration of the licensing function, and I commend it to Cabinet. And the recommendation on that one is on page 113. I do, however, need a seconder before I can go further.
Thank you, Leader. I'm happy to second this one too.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. It's been moved, it's been seconded. Do I have any comments before I go to the vote? Can I have an agreement then? Thank you very much. And I'd just, at that point, just like to thank the Licensing Committee, which Councillor Smith's part of, but in general, before all their hard work, as you can see, there was quite an extensive part of the agenda today that went through that committee, and to keep us up to date and lawful, and I really appreciate all the work that they've done. Right, item number 13. Item number 13 is Leader of the Council's items. I have one statement to make. Okay. So this is on the termination of the Your Stride Careline contract. On the 24th of October 2024, and in accordance with powers delegated to me within the Council's Constitution, as set out within Part 3, Responsibility of Functions, Scheme of Delegated Powers, Scheme 3, Responsibility for Executive Functions, Section 3, General Principles Regarding Decision Making by the Cabinet, Paragraph 4B, Part 3.29, I made an urgent decision on behalf of the Cabinet upon which I'm required by those provisions to make this public statement. That urgent decision related to the termination of the Your Stride Careline contract and was as follows: that A, the leader of the council, i.e. me, in exercising their authority and following consultation with the Section 151 and monitoring officers, makes an urgent decision to authorise immediate notice being served on AE Partners Limited, giving 16 weeks prior notice to terminate the supply of services agreement between them and the council. B, the directors for governance and of planning and communities be authorised to take the necessary administrative steps to enable this decision to be implemented as soon as possible and without further delay to the council. And C, notification of such decisions will be reported to members accordingly. My reasons for taking these urgent decisions were recorded in Part B, but in the public interest, the Monitor Officer has summarised some of the details in the section of the Careline report on pages 337 and 338 of this agenda. I decided that measures needed to be put in place to serve notice to permanently terminate contract, given the customer, AE Partners Limited, 16-week notice in accordance with the termination provisions as set out within the clause 46 of the contract. Details of my urgent decision will be publicly reported to members at the meeting of the full council that is due to take place on Tuesday, the 26th of November 2024, and this concludes my statement on this matter. Councillor Bray.
Thank you, Leader. Obviously, we only received this notification as we came in today, and you've just announced it here. I don't profess to be an expert on Careline or anything around it, I'm certainly not, but the one thing that immediately springs to mind is just some reassurance that we are communicating with the service users and explaining to them the outcomes and their possible alternatives, given you've made this decision. Thank you, Leader.
Whilst you may have only, I'm going to go.
Thank you, sorry. Councillor Bray, first of all district council members get notification of decisions made, so you would have received the email notification in relation to the urgent decision. Also, it is referenced in the Cabinet agenda, so details of it are within there as well. And in relation to the users, there will be steps being taken within the 16 weeks which is the termination period, as to what happens next. I think it's important to highlight that of those, and this information is in the public domain, it's in the Cabinet report, there are 9,500 registered users of Your Stride. 35 are in tendering.
Sorry, I was literally going to say the same things, but I don't think there's much more for me to say. You wanted to come back?
Well, firstly, I'll apologise. I certainly haven't seen that email, so if it has come to me, it's slipped by. I don't miss many. Apologies for that, for not seeing it. And I appreciate it is only 35 people in tendering, but that is still 35 people, and I'd like to think we do communicate with them. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay. Okay, I'm going to move us on to item number 14. Cabinet member item, report of assets portfolio holder, social value policy, assets procurement partnership, and I believe this one is yours, Councillor Cox.
Thank you, Leader. And as portfolio holder for assets responsible for procurement and social value, I present to the Cabinet a social value policy for adoption to demonstrate how the Council can deliver its corporate priorities by achieving social value through procurement activity, ensuring that Additional benefit and beneficial non-financial outcomes for the community can be delivered through direct commissioning of our contracts with suppliers. Excuse me. The term social value is defined in the Public Services Social Value Act of 2012, which came into force in January 2013 and has been part of the Council's procurement procedure rules since the legislation was enacted. Although previously the Council was not determined what social value means for the district, this administration has been keen to embed social value as a concept across the organisation. Implementing a social value policy can elevate social value from a purely procurement process to an organisation-wide policy. Organisation-wide ownership of social value will encourage each project owner across the authority to consider how they can achieve priority objectives in the corporate plan. These outcomes should be assessed during the development of the strategic business case, procurement approaches, specification, tendering process and contract management activities. To achieve this, it is important that social value is not only a responsibility of the procurement team, but also the services and budget owners who have responsibility for the contracts being commissioned and managed. It is also important that we, as cabinet members, ensure that social value is an integral part of our thinking as we develop policies which affect our individual portfolios. It is considered best practice for authorities to have a corporate-wide social value policy, and its introduction will indicate to suppliers the importance and longevity of this agenda. Importantly, the policy sets out the themes, outcomes and measures which provide a pool of social value objectives to be selected from. This enables officers, in consultation with portfolio holders, if necessary, to choose the TOMs which are relevant to the particular contract and could be delivered through that contract. This approach will provide consistency to the social value objectives being sought and monitored. The Essex Procurement Partnership, of which Tendring District Council forms a part of, and Tendring's Director of Governance, having promoted social value forming an early part of its policy development, have collaborated to produce the draft social value policy as set out in Appendix A, which starts at page 114, and it's that what we're asking you to adopt this morning. Like many councils across the country, Tendring, along with the Essex Procurement Partnership, is seeking to adopt the Local Government Association's National Social Value Task Force national themes. Sorry, it's a bit of a mouthful. Outcomes and measures method of classifying and scoring social value in our tender processes. This method is frequently referred to as the national TOMs. The themes, outcomes and measures are based on a strong, inclusive and stable economy, a good place for children and families to grow, health, well-being and independence for all ages, and a high-quality environment. Awareness will be raised through events and forums with local businesses to raise awareness of the social value policy through the Youth and Economic Growth Service and their contacts. The Essex Procurement Partnership will also provide material and training sessions can be arranged for suppliers. A performance monitoring scheme is being developed. The principle is that this will be undertaken through the procurement team, so there is a central method and approach, and to take this additional responsibility from service contract managers. Tendring District Council forms part of the Essex Procurement Partnership, and I currently chair the member advisory group. We will soon be bringing forward a procurement strategy and align to the implementation of the Procurement Act 2023, which will come into effect in January 2025. I now ask Cabinet to formally adopt the social value policy and agree recommendations A to D as set out on page 123. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter, and I am more than happy to second that one. It's been something that I've been chasing as an overview and scrutiny committee for quite some time. So, Mr. Davidson.
So I just wanted to check I wasn't going to steal what you were going to say. I'm apparently known for that on occasions. I just wanted to say I just wanted to say that we are the first actually adopter of this. and blazing the trail in terms around this and the importance of it. And actually, it reflects the importance for us of our socio-demographics as well. So I think it's really important. And I'd also like to thank Lisa Hastings for all the work she's put into this, both for us and also for Essex wide in terms of where we've got to as well.
Not what I thought he was going to say, but likewise, he has stolen what I was going to say. Miss Hastings and I have been through this quite for a long journey. We first touched on it when I was chairman of the scrutiny committee, and I am really glad to see that we've now got social policy, and the work we're doing with Essex is even more exciting about how we, as Mr Davidson said, are leading on this. It's really, really interesting. Any comments? Councillor Honeywood.
Thank you, Chairman. The councillor did touch on my initial question, which was what performance monitoring is being put in place, and you answered that for me before I asked the question. There are 2 points from that. Do you know when that will be put in place? Have you got a timeline in mind when that will actually be in place? And secondly, bearing in mind the issues around spendles, are you going to be incorporating the results of the spendles inquiry into those monitoring decisions that you make? Oh, and finally, while I'm on it, do we have a date for the inquiry's conclusions? Thank you.
So we're talking about the TOMs, so I'll answer the question on the TOMs. Sorry, the social value contract. So if you want to answer the timing, do you know?
I think the timeline's still being approved. Once we've got that, I'm quite prepared to share that timeline with you.
I think the questions around spendles, I think if you want to stick them in an email, we'll happily answer them. But at the moment, we're talking about social value, and spendles and all of that lot will come as part of some other conversation.
Well, I realise that, but what I says we're talking about procurement, and it may well be that lessons are being learned from the inquiry from a procurement perspective that could be incorporated into this. That's what I was getting at.
We are obviously going to be developing a procurement strategy which will have to align with the national rules that come out, and I would have thought that we'd address that through through building that strategy and then implementing it.
It's been moved by Councillor Cott, seconded by me. No other comments. Can I have an agreement? Thank you very much. Okay, we are now down to item number 15, which is the report of the Corporate Finance and Governance Portfolio Holder, myself, about the Financial Performance Report 2024-25, general update at the end of September 2024. And this can be found on pages 151 to pages 200. As per usual, I have a statement, so I shall just capture that. It has only been a few weeks since we considered our last financial performance report, with a few things happening in the interim period, not least the government's autumn announcements. In terms of the budget announcements, it was good news to hear the government's commitment to protect the general funding for local authorities, which has allowed us to make a more positive view of the level of money likely to be receivable in 25-26, which has been reflected in the forecast. The government has announced a number of business rate measures that will in turn support our local businesses across the district, with the cost of these being fully reimbursable by the government. There is still some doubt, however, about whether the government will reimburse councils for the increasing costs emerging from the national insurance changes also announced. But many local authority bodies are seeking clarity from the government on what this means in practice. Given this uncertainty, the forecast currently reflects a national insurance increase, which, if not reimbursed, would cost the council an estimate of £400,000 to £500,000 per year. In terms of other government announcements, they have also signalled their intention to reform the local government funding system for 25-26 and will carry out a broader redistribution of funding to better reflect local needs through a multi-year settlement from 26-27. Our longer term forecast, therefore, remains subject to such reviews, and we carefully feed our voices into any associated consultation process next year. In terms of the in-year position for 24-25, there are no significant surprises emerging, with our work on identifying issues as early as possible continuing to support a relatively stable position in 24-25. Homelessness continues to be one of our biggest challenges, and we are proposing to set aside £1.2 million to meet the increased demand for temporary accommodation. As set out in the report, we have also asked officers to bring a report to a future meeting of Cabinet to make a more detailed look at the homelessness and what else the Council may be able to do to help to meet our obligations and responsibilities as cost effective as we can, given the significant ongoing financial impact that it is having. In terms of supporting the Council's capacity to be able to deliver on its priorities and objectives, it is worth highlighting the mobilisation of the Project Delivery Unit. The report includes some additional recommendations associated with this in terms of being as flexible and nimble as we need to be to make sure that we have the resources in place in as timely manner as possible. It is also worth highlighting the comments set out within the report that relate to the half-yearly Treasury Review. The normal activities remain in place following the Capital and Treasury Strategy and associated Treasury Management practice, with no major issues to raise. Interest rates were recently reduced by the Bank of England, and it will be interesting to see what happens over the next few months given the number of uncertainties that prevail in the world at the moment. We are now only a matter of weeks away from when we need to finalise our first draft budget for proposals for 25-26. Work remains ongoing to finalise our first draft proposals, which may be able to reflect the government's draft local government finance settlement figures if we receive them in time. Taking a step back for a moment, it may be potentially remiss of me if I do not mention a further government announcement about working with councils to move towards a simpler structures and associated white paper. Based on what the government said today, it would appear that the reform and reorganisation of local government will feature extensively in the future of councils in England. Hopefully, the government will engage extensively with the local authority sector as part of developing their plans and aspiring going forward. Hopefully, we can arrange an all-member briefing to cover this in more detail once the white paper is announced, and also cover a more in-depth review of the forecast and development of the budget, as we all need to have a good understanding of both topics, especially in terms of the Council's financial position in future years. As always, I welcome the views and input of the Resource and Overview Scrutiny Committee as they review the forecast and the budgets at their upcoming meetings. So, before I come to you, I'll just get a seconder. I do need a seconder.
I'm happy to second this report, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. Mr. Davidson.
Thank you, Leader. I just wanted to comment on the local government reorganisation aspect around this. I think it's really important to say is that we are awaiting the white paper, so therefore we don't know what the direction is. There is a lot of speculation as to whether it will be mandated, whether there'll be various different options around that, or whether it will be linked to other work, devolution, etc. However, that is not clear. We have asked the ministers those questions, and that is not clear at this stage. And we've been told to wait until the white paper is published, which we will do so. Once the white paper is published, we will have a group leaders meeting, and then follow that with an all-member briefing to explain to members exactly what the position is. I think that the recent municipal journal, the trade press for local government, has speculated on the front page around the Essex being at the forefront of that, and I think that that's certainly something which government are having discussions around and looking at. However, we are not party to those at this stage, and I would say that we are ensuring that it is the south and the north of the county are both represented in those talks. Because although the two unitaries in the county are obviously what they're called the upper tier authorities, however, we need to ensure that the north of the county is also well and truly represented in those discussions. So at this stage, it is a holding answer I'm giving you, or a holding statement I'm giving you around local government reorganisation. I will say for tendering, one thing is that what strongly I don't want, and I know that you as members would not want, that we become in a state of suspended animation for 2 or 3 years if there is to be local government reorganisation, or indeed if there's speculation about being local government reorganisation. We have some very, very big projects going on. We have a lot of really important work going on, and obviously a lot of work which is going on to support our residents. And recognising the socio-demographics in particular, it is even more important about how well and the delivery we do of those. Levelling up, the various levelling up projects as an example, well-being, the day-to-day importance of the work which we do as a council, day in, day out, paying benefits, collecting council tax, emptying people's bins, cleaning the streets, all those sorts of things are absolutely critical, and they continue to a good quality. And we do not get into a state of a suspended animation because of conjecture around local government reorganisation. So whether or not it's going ahead, my position is that we will continue to be focusing on our services, and when we know more about whether or not and what's happening at that stage, then we will certainly be telling our members and having a discussion, be giving you the opportunity to have the discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Davison. Okay, financial performance report. Any comments before I go to the vote? No. Okay, it's been moved by me, seconded by Councillor Cott. Recommendations on page 153 and 154. Are we happy to agree? Thank you very much. So we move on to item number 16, and this is a joint report of the Housing Portfolio Holder and the Corporate Finance Governance Portfolio Holder myself. So in the absence of Andy, I'll take the whole thing. This is the LCTS, which is the Local Council Tax Support Scheme, and the Council Tax Discounts, Premiums and Local Business Rate Relief Scheme, and the MRP policy. Right, as per usual, it's easier for me to write things down. So this report sets out the continuation of This report sets out the continuation of stability for residents that we saw in previous years. This remains an important consideration, especially within the continuing and challenging economic climate. You may recall the decision from last year where we extended the banding associated with long-term empty properties, which meant a council tax premium being chargeable after a period of just 1 year instead of 2. At the same time last year, we agreed to introduce a council tax premium of 100% on second homes from the 1st of April 2025. There is no deviation proposed from these earlier decisions, and for this reason set out in the report, it is still our intent to recommend to full council that a 100% council tax premium on second homes is implemented from the 1st of April 2025. We have listened to the feedback we have received from second homeowners during the year, and although the points they raise as set out in the reports are acknowledged, the council is always having to balance this with the principles behind the introduction of such a premium, which relates to encouraging a permanent population and the economic community benefits that it brings. Having said that, along with the government, we accept there will always be exceptions where such premiums are not appropriate. Therefore, alongside the introduction of second home premiums, the government has introduced a number of exceptions, so for relevant periods, no council tax premium will be chargeable. These exceptions are always extended to long-term empty properties as necessary. As was mentioned last year, the introduction of council tax premiums is not about making money, but about trying to increase the number of properties available for local people, along with maximising the size of the permanent population within the district. We have also made a few changes to the annual minimum revenue provision policy statement to reflect updated guidance. As set out in the report, it has no impact on the council directly, as we have always taken a pragmatic and reasonable approach to related issues, unlike some local authorities who have had a more risky approach, which never pays off in the end. Apart from the confirmation of the introduction of a council tax premium on second homes, everything is proposed to remain broadly unchanged, and I will look forward to introducing this item at the next full council meeting towards the end of this month. So that was my statement. I do need a seconder.
Happy to second the report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Cox, and I'll go to comments. Councillor Henderson. Sorry, I thought you'd be hand up. Any comments? Oh, okay. Well, thank you for that. It's been proposed, seconded, the recommendations on pages 202 and 203. Can I have agreement, please? Thank you very much. Which takes us on to agenda item 17, which is a report of the Environment Portfolio Holder, the Climate Change Action Plan, and I'm guessing this one's coming to you, Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Leader. The warming climate is of global importance, and for us as a coastal district here in Tendring, flooding is a major concern. so we understand the impact of rising sea levels in the years ahead. The Council is taking many actions to mitigate our carbon emissions. These include converting to LED lighting where we are able, and a huge energy saving by the use of pool covers within our leisure centres. In new buildings, we have just completed the Honeycroft scheme of 13 bungalows, utilising solar panels and air source heat pumps, making these some of the most energy efficient homes delivered within Tendring. Planning applications for the Civic Quarter scheme in Clacton and social homes in Harwich will utilise modern technologies to deliver more energy efficient homes that are well above current building regulation standards. There are further plans set in place to promote not just low carbon, but also that we champion high nature. This will mean that we make full use of biodiversity net gain to encourage pollinators and wildlife in Tendring. Water conservation is of great importance, and we are looking to utilise water butts and other devices that can help to minimise excessive use of this valuable resource. There are many more plans that need to be explored, and we see this as ambitious whilst also being realistic. With that in mind, our commitment to reaching net zero is important. However, the independent advice we have been given is that to achieve this by 2030, I'm sorry to say, will cost many millions of pounds, which, to put it simply, is unaffordable. I request that Cabinet recommend to full Council that we align our target date to reach net zero to correspond with the UK Government's national target date, which is currently 2050. This revised timescale will align with government policy, regulation and funding, travelling at the same pace as government will make our plans achievable. This target date may still be a challenge, but I am optimistic that at the next review in 3 years, there will be greater investment and funding that will help us and government to achieve net zero prior to 2050. I move the recommendations on page 260 in this report.
Thank you very much, Councillor Smith. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Scott.
Yeah, I'd like to second this proposal on climate change action plan. I think it's crucially important that we do this and look at our climate and ways of reducing carbon going into the atmosphere. So I fully support this and second this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Do I have any comments? Okay. In that case, it's been moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Scott. Recommendation is on page 260, £10 for the pot. And can I have a vote, please? All agreed? Thank you very much. Okay, item number 18 is the report of the partnership portfolio holder, Tendring District Council Careline Service Review, results of consultation and next steps. Councillor Scott, I believe you're leaving for this one. Sorry.
I just wanted to inform everybody in the room that the live stream of this meeting, the connection has broken, fallen off. I don't know what that means. I'm not very technical. But what we can say is that the meeting is still recorded and will be available on the council's website after the meeting as usual. But just, if anybody starts to receive any messages or anything to say you've gone, then we know that. But we're still, the full meeting will be available online afterwards.
Thank you, Ms Hastings. Councillor Scott, you can leave the room while we discuss item 18. Okay, so this is the report of the partnership portfolio holder, Tendring District Council Careline Service Review, results of consultation and next steps. Over to you, Councillor Placey.
Thank you. In July, this Cabinet considered different options for the future of our Careline service following a 12-month review. The review revealed that since Careline was established in 1987, then as a unique service, the private market for telecare services had expanded over the years, and there is now a much wider choice for our residents offering similar services. Rather than, as originally, filling a gap in the market for services that didn't exist, Tendring Careline is now competing in a widening market with other providers, with growing challenges around staff recruitment and retention, maintaining the best possible quality of service to our customers, and ensuring best value for money for all our residents. There is absolutely no question about the brilliance of our Careline team and our truly dedicated staff who provide an amazing service to our vulnerable service users. You do a great job day in and day out under extraordinary pressure. These discussions are not in any way a reflection on you or the quality of your work. You do Tendring proud, and we on the Cabinet thank you. In July, we agreed to carry out a consultation on the future of Careline with our service users, residents and other interested parties, with a preferred option to cease Careline's telecare response and lifting service, exiting the market and retaining only our out-of-hours and CCTV functions. There is no point in carrying out consultations if you are not prepared to listen to the results. We do now have the results of the consultation, and we are most definitely listening. From our 2,000 service users, we received over 1,000 responses, with 72% of those responders telling us they would prefer to see Careline continue, a testament to the excellent work of our staff. Although, if we did have to make the decision to cease the service, most service users would be willing to transfer to a trusted alternative provider if they could get assistance from the council on doing that. When asked if our service users would be prepared to pay more for our current Careline service, just over half of respondents said no, with the other half indicating some willingness to pay a bit more, but not a lot more. The consultation wasn't only aimed at service users, staff and residents, it was open to partners and other service providers to comment, which revealed some interesting ideas. We have had approaches from third parties expressing an interest in potentially taking on all or part of Careline, including Colchester City Council, which runs a similar helpline service, and some private companies. Tendring already partners with Colchester and the NHS with a common aim to achieve an integrated approach to healthcare. Therefore, it makes sense to explore whether combining services with Colchester has advantages, and equally, if there are other offers on the table that could provide continuity for our service users and opportunities for our staff. However, at the moment, we don't have any details about how these proposals could work, so it is sensible that we take the time to obtain more detail and consider these proposals. I am therefore proposing to Cabinet that we build more time into the programme to allow our officers to explore in more detail the proposals put forward by Colchester and other parties, and that they return their findings, along with updated financial information, to Cabinet for us to then come to a properly informed decision. We are asking Colchester to submit a detailed proposal for officers' consideration by the 16th of December and for a report to return to Cabinet in February. We will therefore also add additional time to the end of the programme to implement whatever that final decision will be, which will take us to the end of June 2025. Can I, on behalf of all Cabinet, thank our service users, staff and residents for their patience as we take our time to consider the results of the consultation and explore the proposals that have been put to us. The recommendations are on pages 329 and 330, and I commend this report to Cabinet for its consideration and approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Placey. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Cox.
Thank you, Leader, and I'm happy to second this report, which details the results of the recent consultation on the future of the Council's Careline service and outlines the next steps. Officers have analysed the results of the consultation, have proposed a number of recommendations which we as a Cabinet have read and discussed. The recommendations are based on what is considered the best option for both service users and the Council. On the basis that the Council has listened to the feedback from users, the public and stakeholders, and the recommendations take that feedback into consideration, I support those recommendations. The one thing that I would mention is that following the report back to Cabinet in February next year, we should come to a decision given that this is a service provided to vulnerable members of our community, and we can't let an important decision such as this go unresolved for a long time. Thank you.
It's been proposed, seconded. Do we have any comments? Councillor Honeywood.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I have a couple of areas. Firstly, in response to Councillor Placey, what we're saying, or what we appear to be saying, please correct me if I'm wrong, we're inviting third parties to provide a firm proposal within 1 month. So that means a third party organisation, be it Colchester or anybody else, have got 1 month to look at Careline, look at its financial structure, look at its makeup and how it runs, go away, formulate a firm proposal, and then commit that in 4 weeks. Do you really think that that's giving them a fair opportunity for a business to do that?
I'll probably defer you to the leader. I'm not an expert in this field, but I would think if they're already providing such services that they would have the means to escalate anything that was asked of them. Leader?
So as part of the consultation process, they came to us, and as part of the conversations with officers, it's been their proposal, along with ours, officers, to talk about when this will come forward. You know, we didn't just blindly put this in there and say you've got to do it. So we've had a conversation with the third parties, and it's their view to come back in a month, because we do not want to drag this out. That's the point. Now, I think Councillor Cox hit on that. There is currently an unstable point in Careline as people do not know what they're doing, and that will cause anxiety in itself. So we've asked, along with officers, for them to look at quite quickly, but in a more detailed fashion, as to what the proposal would be. And that's come from both sides.
But we're talking more than Colchester being able to come forward, aren't we?
I said third parties, but I emphasise Colchester, but third parties is the word. So people are being given the opportunity that came forward, and discussions were had. So at the time when we did the consultation, as part of the consultation, we weren't even aware of these parties. But now we are in a situation where we don't want to prolong the uncertainty and create even more anxiety about the future of the service than is absolutely necessary. So we've sat there and said, in discussions with them, through our officers, that would probably be the best approach, and that's the one we're going with.
So in conclusion, 4 weeks is reasonable.
I think everybody who's talking about it has agreed that that's an appropriate amount of time.
Okay, moving to my next point, and that's around your stride and having had a look at the document. It says in the report, your stride, we are receiving a call every 15 seconds, and 83% of our calls are coming from your stride. Now, we're now finishing our relationship with your stride. What difference does that make to the finances of Careline? Looking at it, it makes a substantial difference. So I'm surprised that you're pushing forward with the recommendation to close Careline at this stage when you've not fully looked at the financial implications that withdrawing from or finishing with your stride will have.
So when we looked at the financial element of this, which isn't the reason why we're getting rid of Careline, there were 5 options put in front of us. Each one of those options captured what it would look like to remove all services, which included your stride. Yeah. So some of those options, not all of them, talked about whether your stride went or not. And I'm saying your stride, but when I talk about your stride, I'm talking about all services offered by Careline from external suppliers. So that was already captured in those decision making, and it's only because of what has happened going forward that we've had to make the urgent decision to do that right now. That's captured in the document that you can see in front of you, and the reasons why we had to do it, also covered by my statement. But in our original thinking, back in July, that was the 5 options, that was in those 5 options. Mr. Davidson.
Sorry, can I just clarify one point that Councillor Honeywood made was a very, very good point. The decision to make the report will be in February. The finances for the finances you're saying about as to what decision then members do make will be contained in the February report. So in order to make the decision, you're quite right to say is what are our options, and therefore are we fully cognizant of what the different financial position is. That will be in the February report for members then to be able to make the decision.
So are you aware of the financial differences your stride no longer being with us will make? Obviously there's the finance side from the incoming calls, the staffing levels, etc. Or is that still up in the air?
I think it's still up in the air a little bit. It's commercially sensitive, so I can't talk too much about it. But from where we are at the moment, that decision was only made a couple of weeks ago. 16 weeks is the cool down, the cancellation period. We've also got what may or may not happen with third parties. So there's quite a lot of things up in the air. So to sit there and say we know that the financial implications of all of those things at this precise moment in time would be fair to say no, we don't. But we have got a rough idea, you know, of which direction we're going to go. But we'll wait for the report in February before we make a decision. We're going to come from an informed place, not from a speculation place, and that's why we can't sit there and say yes, we know the implications. No, we don't, because there's too many options that need exploring through our officers.
Thank you for that. I mean, my concern is, judging by the length of consultation time and what's being said, that this in reality is turning out to be a political decision rather than a financial decision, and that worries me.
I think you can make that comment, but I wouldn't say that. That's your personal thoughts on it. Councillor Bray.
Thank you, Leader. Firstly, I do share my colleagues' concerns in regard of the timescale for third parties coming. I think 4 weeks is pushing it a lot. That said, I will say that I'm pleased that the consultation has been listened to. I think that's the point of consultation. You're quite right. One of you, I can't remember which of you, said there's no point in a consultation if you don't take any notice of it. So I'm pleased that you did that, and I think giving yourself time to get it right is the right thing to do. So I think the whole back is absolutely right. I am a little bit concerned, though, that does somewhat leave our service users in what I would call limbo. You know what's going on, we're learning what's going on, and I'd like to think that they know what's going on and what their options are going to be, because there's going to be a degree of worry among the service users as to what happens next. Which leads me on to my next point. There's much being spoken about finance, etc., but actually I'm a bit more concerned about quality. We know that Careline has provided a quality service, and I'd like to think, particularly given that we're talking about a 4-week turnaround for a third party, that we're in a position to make sure that anything they could offer will be at least equal to what Careline currently offer, which I think, from my perspective, is far more important than finance. And I'd like some reassurance that can be done. If we're talking about third parties coming in short periods of time, where's the guarantees of quality in that space of time? I think it's a little unrealistic, but your comments will be welcome. Thank you, Leader.
Councillor Placey.
Yeah, I think the Leader has already explained about the 4 weeks, but let me assure you we have our red lines. I'm not going to tell you about them in this public meeting, but we can probably talk outside that. But we have got our red lines to ensure quality.
Mr. Davidson.
Just to add to Councillor Bray's question around the communications with users, communications have already gone to users in advance of this report. That's already gone out, and we will also be communicating with staff in terms of following the outcome of this meeting as well. So your point is a very good one about that ongoing communications. We will do that, and also we will be post the going to the February, around February, also be talking to members about whatever the outcome and whatever the decision is made, how we will be supporting users, whether it be not doing it, changing it, or whatever it might be, so that you also are well informed as members, because in each of your wards you will have people who are Careline users.
Councillor Bray.
Thanks, Lee. Yes, thank you for those comments, and I do appreciate that there are things that you can't say at the moment because you can't. I think that the point on communications is we all know that we're talking about people who are very vulnerable in many cases, and when they receive letters, sometimes they don't really understand, or they do understand and they're just concerned. You know, they're worried they're potentially losing something they've relied on for a long time. So extreme kid gloves, I think, is very, very important on this. That's the point I'm trying to raise, keeping them really in the loop rather than just in the loop, if you see what I mean. The quality is an issue I'm concerned about. I guess only time will tell if that will be maintained, but it must be at least maintained. That is hugely important. Thank you, Leader.
Just to reinforce what Mr. Davidson said about the letters, for those people who you inferred that might not be able to or not understand, we have also sent supplementary letters to the people that support them, you know, so they would be aware of the situation, and that could be explained to them in a way that they find easier and everything else.
Greatly encouraged by that. Thank you, Chairman.
No problem. Councillor Chapman.
You've just said everything I was going to say. As I said, personally, my mum is a customer, and she's received a letter, and I, as a power of attorney, have also received letters. And the first thing my mum said, you know, she's 83, is it was a lovely letter to receive. It was easy to understand. And she said, and she doesn't say that very lightly. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chapman. Are there any other comments? Okay, it's been moved by Councillor Placey, seconded by Councillor Cox. Are we all in agreement? Agreed. Okay, does somebody want to go and get Councillor Scott? I know you really do want to go. Okay, item number 19, management items. There are none. I hereby close the meeting.